This is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Another exciting update today. And I have a very special show for you today. You know, what this show is going to be about is about your soil and building your soil. And what I'm doing today actually is I'm planting one of these tomatoes. And this is a patio tomato. So these patio tomatoes are basically, they'll grow maybe about this tall, really not that high, but they'll make fairly nice, full size, tomatoes. And, they do have a little bit of a bland flavor in my opinion, but they're cool because you could fit them pretty much anywhere. They won't sprawl up and get super tall and big like some of the indeterminate varieties will. So I like to put those in my front bed, kind of like to show what you can do in a square foot bed. This is my bed that actually I have. You probably can't see that on camera. I do have some stainless steel wire denoting each square. Now this bed basically grew over the winter time and it's gotten kind of overgrown. We did some flowers at the edges that you might see in the background, and then we had a lot of chickweed that just basically reseeded itself in the winter. So I just kind of let it grow and we planted some mosh or corn salad in here that kind of came up, and now that's flowering and seeding too. But last year, if you remember, what I grew in here was like tomatoes, peppers, Malabar spinach, strawberry spinach, all kinds of different things. And for the first time, I was really happy to see when I was in this bed looking where I'm going to plant the tomato. I found these little guys, and there's all these little starts or volunteers that actually just came up from last year because, I'm not judicious at picking all the seeds and saving all my seeds, maybe like I should be. I saved some of them. But you know what? Sometimes they just drop on the ground, and then guess what? Nature knows the exact right time for them to come up. I mean, these Malabar spinaches that are coming up now, they won't come up in the winter when it's too cold because, they'll freeze and they won't make it. But now the weather has warmed up enough, the conditions were right, getting enough water, and guess what? I got all these Malabar spinach plants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And maybe even more that I'm not seeing right now. But I'm so glad that, these came up without me having to do anything. I mean, I got seeds inside that I still haven't started yet because I've been lazy. But this is the way nature works. And it's my dream, one of my goals, to let things grow, let them seed themselves, and then come back. So that's one of the reasons why this bed is overgrown with the chickweed, because I just wanted to let it grow and go to seed, and it has been dumping lots of seeds. So chickweed, once again, can be a weed, but it is also an amazing edible green that you can use in salads and for eating. Really delicious. In any case, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the soil. Now, you know that I'm a big advocate of building your soil because you know what? You are the soil, and the soil is you. Whatever is in your soil basically gets transferred into your plants, and then you eat the plants. So basically, we are the soil. So the healthier you can make your soil, the more nutritious and optimal you can make your soil, the more nutritious your plants are going to be, the healthier your plants are going to be, the more they're going to produce. So for longtime viewers, you know that I'm an advocate of two main things, and that has been for the longest time compost and rock dust. We want compost that has basically nutrition plus microbes and fungi in there that are beneficial for the plants. And also we want the rock dust for the trace minerals. But there's something that I have been using for quite a long time that I don't often mention. I do mention it here and there, but this is going to be a whole episode on it. And what that stuff is this stuff right here. This stuff is actually called mycorrhiza. This is actually by the brand name Mycos by Extreme Gardening. And what the mycorrhiza is, it's basically a fungi. And it's, in the soil, there's all kinds of bacteria and fungi growing, and they're occurring there naturally. Because, one of my thoughts is that I like to duplicate nature. And if we look to nature for answers, like I recommend in many situations, in nature, in most natural undisturbed soils in the forest, there's going to be a relationship between the trees and the plants and their roots and the fungi or mycorrhiza. It is said that some of the aquatic plants only came to the land and were able to colonize and grow on the land millions of years ago because of this relationship with the mycorrhiza. Basically how it works is, we'll go ahead and take this tomato plant up so you can see. The plants have the roots that we all know of, But what happens when the mycorrhiza comes in contact with the roots, the mycorrhiza forms a symbiotic relationship with the plant's roots. So what does that mean? What's symbiotic? Well, symbiotic, you can think of your marriage, and hopefully your marriage or your partnership with your partner is symbiotic. So that means maybe your husband or wife works, they bring home the money, and then you also bring home money, and then you come together all as one unit, and you both contribute to the relationship to make it symbiotic. So both people are contributing to the relationship to make it better than it was by being single. So that's what the mycorrhiza does to the roots. They work together to make it even better. What happens is the plant gives the mycorrhiza basically like sugars or carbohydrates, and the mycorrhiza basically is able to basically harness the minerals in the soil, so phosphorus and probably also the trace minerals, and make them more readily and easily absorbed by the plants, so that the plants now could get more nutrition out of the soil. Even if you have soil that's maybe not so good, and you plant things in there they don't do so well, but maybe you plant in that same soil, you add the mycorrhiza with your same soil that the plant didn't do so well, and then your plant will do great. Well, why? Because a mycorrhiza basically unlocks the nutrients in the soil so that your plant can now absorb it. So I highly recommend, if you can't buy compost or rock dust, at least get yourself some mycorrhiza to utilize the maybe poor soil that you may have, but the best is actually to use compost, rock dust, and the mycorrhiza. So by using those three things in your soil, you're gonna be far ahead of most commercial and actually organic growers. I mean, most people, they haven't done the research and they don't know about these kind of soil amendments. Plus the other thing is that these things can get expensive to do on large scale. And once again, commercial farmers are all about the green stuff. And I don't mean, the leaves, I mean the money. Most commercial farmers are growing to make a living, and they have to make a living, and I do support some organic commercial growers sometimes. I can't grow all my food yet until I get some acreage, but they need to make a living, and if they're investing all this money in the mycorrhiza and stuff and it doesn't pay off, they don't want to take the risk. I don't know how many people out there are watching the Food Revolution by Jamie Oliver. It's a great show on ABC, and they're not paying me to plug that, although I just did. But I do like the show because, Jamie's trying to make a fundamental shift and a change in the food that's being served to school kids. And he wants to get more natural food served, not necessarily up to my levels, but definitely better than what's being served to the kids. I mean, junk food and processed food is being served to the kids. And he wants to get real food back into the school system, which I think is great. So he's being squelched by the district and the council, the superintendent, and all that kind of stuff. But also he's going into a fast food restaurant and he's trying to stir that up, and instead of at this fast food restaurant using like bottom of the line, low end crap meat, Jamie just wants to get him like a good quality, range fed, beef where they know where it's from, and improving the quality and using real strawberries in the milkshakes instead of strawberry stuff out of a box or can or whatever it comes in. And the guy wouldn't change, and this is indicative of like industry and business. People don't want to change because, they know what they're doing works, and if they make one shift, I mean, it could cost, the family's income. It could cost the business if you make one small shift and then nobody buys your products or your farm doesn't yield well. Well, rest assured, I know these products work or I wouldn't be making a video about it. And that's why I want to share these products with you so that you can take advantage of these things and growing in small scales. Once again, when you want to basically use the small resource or the land or your single raised bed or your potted plants and get the most out of them, that's where the mycorrhiza can come in. I have heard statements like 5 to 20% increase in yields, but it also may be more depending on the specific situation. But expect at least 10% increase in the yields. So that could work out to be a lot of extra food for you. Plus the other thing is that because the nutrient absorption of the roots is going to be more efficient because of the mycorrhiza. And how does it really work? Well, the mycorrhiza basically produces these enzymes that break down the nutrients in the soil that then allow the plants to absorb them more effectively. When the plant gets more nutrition, it's more nutritious. So then you're also, besides getting a higher yield, you're going to produce a higher quality, more nutrient-rich plant, which is going to be more disease-resistant. Plus, when you eat that plant, you're going to be healthier because the plant is just healthier, and it just makes sense. And plus, this is how nature works, and because of all the chemical spraying and construction and disturbing the soil, we've lost a lot of the mycorrhizal and fungi and bacterial content in the soils. That's one of the reasons why things like compost tea and compost is so important, because compost and compost teas literally brew the beneficial bacteria and some of the fungi in there, you know, to put them back in the soil. Now, that being said, I still do recommend using some, you know, mycorrhiza, because you don't know what's in your what's in your compost unless you get a soil test, and it probably costs a lot of money to figure out what bacteria is in there. But so keep using that, but also use some of this mycorrhiza. So next, what we're going to do is we're just going to simply plant this tomato plant, and I'm going to show you how to use a mycorrhiza. It's actually critical that you use it in a certain way, because if you just start dumping this all over, you know, your raised bed, it might not be as effective. And actually, this stuff is a little bit pricey too. I think this bag was maybe about 20-30 bucks. So, you know, it just depends. This is 2.2 pounds, 1 kilo. Hey man, wanna buy a kilo? But so real easy to apply. Let's go ahead and dig this hole for this tomato plant. I think we're gonna put them right here. So I'm about halfway done digging that hole, and check it out. I mean, you know, some people say, oh John, you can't grow in all compost, and people tell me you can't grow in all compost, but take a look at this stuff. Does that stuff look like compost? You mean this looks like dark, rich soil? I mean, basically it's been in here, the earthworms have been working on it, and it's been breaking down all this time to make some nice, dark, rich soil. So, you know, if they say you can't grow in compost, I guess it depends on the quality of that compost. So if it's a non-finished compost, it's still breaking down, you know, then you can't grow in it. But if it's a good finished compost, like this stuff I'm getting from Sonoma Compost, guess what? Everything's pretty much grown in here really well for me. So let me go ahead and finish up digging this hole here. So I am gonna dig this hole a little bit deeper than actually the plant here. So we're gonna tear off some of these branches here, like the lower ones, because I'm gonna basically bury this up probably about up to here actually. So we're gonna basically put this in, fill the soil up to there to bury this stuff, and this stuff will actually root out. So you're gonna have a much more productive and healthy tomato plant in the long run. So let's see there. Well, I think that's pretty much it. We got it down in there. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna carefully take some of this mycorrhizae, and you know, the recommended use is about a tablespoon plus. Obviously the manufacturer wants you to use more, so then you run out quicker and then you could buy more. But I'll use about a tablespoon. And you know, it's very important to put it in the hole around the edges. And what you're striving to do is you want to get this mycorrhiza in contact with the roots. Because if this stuff doesn't come in contact with the roots, you know what? It's pretty much not going to be too useful for you. So you could kind of rough up the roots here on the bottom, on the sides, and get it to come out, and make sure, you know, around the whole edges of the hole you get some mycorrhiza in there. Then we're going to go ahead and simply put that in, and I like to even fill some soil in, backfill it. And because I know there's going to be some roots growing out of the stem of the plant that's underground, I'm going to put some mycorrhiza right near the stem. So when those roots do form, maybe they're going to hit some of that mycorrhiza and go nuts. That's how easy it is to use mycorrhiza when you're transplanting. So if you are starting things from seeds, you know, you should put some in with the seeds, some mycorrhiza with the seeds. So there's two main types of mycorrhiza. There's endomycorrhiza and there's ectomycorrhiza. So basically we're not really talking about ectomycorrhiza today. The ectomycorrhiza is mainly for trees, but for your standard vegetable plants, the endomycorrhiza is what you're going to want to use. And most vegetable plants, you know, form a symbiotic relationship with the mycorrhiza. Some exceptions are like the broccolis and cruciferous vegetables, and also the spinach vegetables. So the chenopodiums, spinach, beetberry, things like that. Basically, you know, they don't colonize with the mycorrhiza, from what I hear. So don't waste your mycorrhiza on those plants. but most other plants do form a symbiotic relationship, and you can actually produce more yields by using the mycorrhiza. So I have been using the Extreme Gardening Mycos mycorrhiza for quite a while now. That's because it's very easy to find in my area. Here in the Santa Rosa area, Friedman Brothers carries them. Also another local store that has the mycorrhiza is Osh, and actually Osh is all throughout California, so you could find it there. But also, you know, most garden stores may not carry the mycorrhiza, so what you could do is go down to your local hydroponics shop. You know, the growers in hydroponics, you know, they want to maximize their yields, and they found things like mycorrhiza could really work to maximize their yields and their growing. So this stuff also works with hydroponics. So that's the brand I currently use. So another mycorrhiza I like is this brand right here. This one's called Plant Success, and this one has endo and ecto mycorrhiza, and the Extreme Gardening is basically just the endo mycorrhiza, and the Extreme Gardening is just one variety of the mycorrhiza. And in this kind of mycorrhiza, there's all different varieties, because, you know, there's not just one bacteria. Like if you're taking probiotics for yourself, or you eat yogurt or fermented foods, you may be aware that the lactobacillus bacteria is in there, and that's just one strain of bacteria, but we have many different strains of bacteria in our bodies that actually help us digest food. And actually that's what the mycorrhiza does for the soil. It helps the plants digest food, and I would encourage everybody actually to eat some probiotics, and more than just the lactobacillus. There's all different kinds of probiotics that are good for us, and just like there's a lot of probiotic varieties for us, there's also a lot of mycorrhizal varieties. So if you get the Extreme Gardening, they just basically have one type, but in this Plant Success Soluble, it has all different kinds of mycorrhizas, both the endo and the ecto. Plus it also has a lot of the beneficial microbes or beneficial bacteria for your ground. So that's why I like these guys a lot, because it's basically a total solution in one package. I mean, you could get the mycos, then you have to buy the, you know, beneficial bacteria separately, or you could get this. Plus this stuff also has humic acid and basically kelp in here, so more nutrients for your plants. So if you got to just pick one, you know, I definitely would get this stuff here. This stuff can, once again, be hard to find. You can get it online on their website. Let's see, their website is plant-success.com. If you want to look for mycos, this is made by Extreme Gardening, and their website is, I think it's like extreme-gardening, but if you do a Google search for mycos, M-Y-K-O-S, you'll come up with their website and actually where to order it. So the Plant Success people also have this stuff, Super Endo 130K, and this is basically just the endo mycorrhiza, so this would be comparable to the Extreme Gardening. But, you know, you also want to read the labels, like when you're taking supplements or eating any food, you want to read the labels to find out what's in there. You know, some supplements may not have as much nutrient as others. So these are measured in actually spores per cc. And, you know, in this one, the Extreme Gardening has 80 spores per cc. And in this one, it has, you know, 3 different types of mycorrhiza, but it's 50 spores of each of them per cc. So overall, it's 150 spores per cc. Is more better? I don't know. You know, what I'd recommend is buy different kinds of mycorrhiza and use them and see which one works best for you. Because, you know, which one works best may be dependent on the variety of the plant you're growing, and also the activity of the mycorrhiza. The other thing very important with the mycorrhiza, don't buy a mycorrhiza that doesn't have an expiration date on the package. So these ones here, it says expiration date March 31st, 2014. On this package, it says expiration 11/27/2014. On the Extreme Gardening, they make it a little bit harder to read, and it's up in this part here in the package. And if we look up at it very carefully, and they should make it more easily to read, I think this stuff expires like 2012 or something. But nonetheless, you want to look and make sure that the mycorrhiza has an expiration date, number one, because it, you know, it does need to be fresh. You know, can't be sitting on the store shelf forever. So that's going to show you that it's fresher. And you want to try to get one that has a date further out. So, you know, a date farthest in the future is more preferable to a date closer to today. So that'll do it for today's episode on the mycorrhiza. I hope you've learned more about the mycorrhiza, how important it is and beneficial it can be for your garden. Whether you're using compost and rock dust or not, you want to be using the mycorrhiza, because that'll basically make the nutrients in the soil more available for your plants. Other things it can do besides increasing yields and having healthier plants, it may also reduce your watering needs and your fertilizing needs, because now the fertilizer is going to be better able to get absorbed into the plants with the mycorrhiza than without it. So that's definitely really good. So you could save if you are still fertilizing. And I don't recommend you use conventional fertilizers, to fertilize your crops. You want to use natural things such as compost, manures, fish emulsions, and other armory and organic nutrients. Oh, the other thing that I almost forgot. Really important, if you are going to spend the money for the mycorrhiza, whatever, $30 a bag, you want to make sure you don't do things to kill them. And one thing that you may do every day that will kill your mycorrhiza is water your plants with unfiltered water. Yes, I said that right. Water your plants with unfiltered water. So most people know not to drink tap water that contains chlorine, and maybe some people, and I hope you guys out there aren't doing this, they buy bottled water. What's much better than bottled water is, installing a good filter at your house so that you can filter your own water, because really, there's nothing wrong with tap water in most cases, as long as you filter it and take out the bad stuff. I mean, most of the bottled water you're buying, it might just be tap water and it's probably filtered, but in some cases it may not be, because there's no regulations on what they have to do to sell bottled water. They could just use tap water and sell it to you in a bottle, and you're thinking you're getting something you're not. But in any case, when you water your plants, with tap water, with the chlorine specifically, why is the chlorine in water? Well, the chlorine is in water to disinfect the water so that when we drink the water or we use the water, we don't get waterborne illnesses, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, and other things, parasites and bacteria that could really wreak havoc on our health. And that's why they put it in there. So it is a good thing. But in the case of, us drinking the chlorinated water, what happens when we drink it is the chlorinated water can kill our beneficial bacteria in our guts. And once again, the beneficial bacteria in our guts help us to digest food. And it could also kill the beneficial microbes and fungi, such as the mycorrhiza in the soil. So just don't do it. If you're going to get the mycorrhiza, at least, use rainwater to water. That's the best. Let the rain water for you. That's even better. Use a well where there's not chlorine in the water. Maybe you have a spring on your property to water everything. There's no chlorine in there either. But if you are on city water, highly encourage you to get a filter to filter your water that you're watering with your plants, so that you don't kill the beneficial microbes and the fungi such as the mycorrhiza in the soil. The other thing you can do that, fish aquarium and fish owners know this, and I found this out when I was a kid because we kept goldfish. The fish store always told us, don't use tap water in with your goldfish, they won't make it. So what they recommended you do is you'd put them out in pots. And I remember when I was a kid, we had all these pots on my kitchen table, my parents' kitchen table, overnight or for 24 hours, because the chlorine will evaporate off. So if you are still watering your water and you don't have a filter, set your water out in big containers, 5-gallon buckets maybe, to let it off gas, and the chlorine will actually off gas probably about 24 hours. If you want to speed that up, you could put an air bubble in there to do that. But you know what? That's a lot of work. Invest in a good filter to remove the chlorine, and I will have an upcoming episode on filtering your water. I do have a couple episodes in the back. Just do a search for them. But I'll have a really good specific episode on that coming up. So hopefully you've learned more today about mycorrhiza and what not to water your garden with to kill your mycorrhiza, and some of the benefits of mycorrhiza. I got to get in. Sun's going down, and it's about dinner time. Once again, this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. We'll see you next time, and keep on growing.